Yo, it's Elut. Welcome back to the channel, and today we have a double feature, double branded deck profile. I wake up in the morning, I got branded on my mind. And we're doing the Despia build first, because I haven't talked about the Despia build in a little bit. I feel like I've been on that Synchro wave, and I went 40 cards for this, which is a little lower than I normally would do. I'm trying to trim a lot of the fat, and basically go full no-nonsense. So let's get into it. So, 3 Elut, no nonsense. I hate him. He has the biggest target on his back in the entire deck, but no nonsense. 3 Albaz, no nonsense. You gotta play him for the grind game. We like Albaz. It's fine. It's fine. It's always good. And then we play the 1 Quem, no nonsense. I still like 2 Quem, but like I said, we're going for no nonsense. 2 Cartesia, standard, no nonsense. No nonsense. The 1-ofs. No ad-lib, but we do play the Tragedy, the Merc, and Shroudion. These all do everything that I like them to do. They're all great cards. They are searchable 1-ofs, and they're cool. The 2 Bestials, no nonsense. I get my fill of the Bestials in the Synchro build, so these 2 are perfectly fine. And then I'm still on that Dragoon wave. I like Dragoon. I think Dragoon's fun. I think he's helpful. Not being able to be targeted in this format is also pretty huge. So, Dark Magician. And then to round out the monsters, 3 Ash. Ash is Ash, no nonsense. No nonsense. It's the most generic hand trap there ever was. Okay. Now, for the spells. So, standard no nonsense. We have the 3 branded opening, the 3 branded fusion, and the 3 fusion deployment. Standard stuff. I don't have to talk about that too much. No nonsense. However, there is some nonsense here, in my opinion, and we are playing 3 Super Poly. So I haven't talked about Super Poly too much on this channel. At the very least, if I'm not main decking Super Poly, I always have 3 in the side. Because when you want Super Poly, oh my god, do you want Super Poly? It's kind of like Droll. Like, if you're not main decking Droll, I feel like it's just kind of a mandatory side deck card, at the very least. Because when you want it, it is devastating in whatever matchup. However, I feel like right now, for Despia in particular, Super Poly, if you build around it, of course, it's sort of like a Book of Moon in the sense of, like, you can fuse going into a board and dodge things. You know, like fuse away your Elut with a light or a dark or something like that. And that's fine. You can get a guaranteed Albaz fusion, sure. But a lot of decks right now play into Mud Dragon, or they play into Garura, or they might even play into both. And then, of course, if you're playing like a fusion deck, you can just make Predaplant Dragostapelia. But I always play Dragostapelia in Branded Despia because he kind of feels like part of the engine. I don't even really consider him a Super Poly target. He's just honorary branded to me. But yeah, I hate this card. Just for the record, I'm a fusion boy till the day I die, but I hate this card. I hate everything it stands for. I hate that nobody can respond to it. But you know what, man? Honestly, Branded Despia is not in like the greatest spot right now. I think the superior fusion branded build right now is Chimera because it's a hand trap format. But if this was a board breaker format, I think Despia is way better. Just my personal opinion. On top of that, spells, 3 triple tack. Again, very hand trap heavy format. I stopped playing Crossout because I'm just kind of tired of Crossout. I've said this before on the channel. If I had Thrust, I would totally be playing Thrust, I think. But Crossout is... the thing I hate about Crossout is, like, yeah, Ash is main decked by almost every deck. And it's a thing you have to account for when you're playing Branded Despia. But at the same time, it can be annoying when going into the side deck because it's like, okay, well, you know post-side they're going to have Ash. So I have to at least leave 1 Ash with my Crossouts. And I can't necessarily perfectly side in a different hand trap. And I'm kind of sick of that right now. I want more versatility, swapping out the hand traps and making siding patterns a little bit simpler. But triple tack, still pretty good. Still pretty good. The 1-of branded spells, the red, the white, and the lost. I'm kind of down on branded lost recently. I think part of that, though, is that because I've been playing the Synchro build, regained it's just insane. So like I compare it to Regained in my head. And I could play Regained in this deck, sure, but I feel like when I start putting in like Regained and Beast and then up the Bestial count in Branded Despia, I just had the thought of I could be playing Branded Synchro right now instead. Like I'm so close. But it's still solid card. It's still fine. It still does a lot. Red is red. I don't have to explain that. And I love Branded in white, dude. Not everybody plays this in Branded Despia, but I kind of think you should. Like, it's searchable for one thing, so you don't have to, like, play a bunch of it. But it situationally is very good for, one, dodging Ash, but also it can sort of, depending on, like, your hand and, like, how you play, it can set you up to have protection from Ash in the first place. So you could, like, brand it in white while Lost is up or whatever, or if Merc is in grave, Quem is on field. And then if you have Branded Fusion, you just Branded Fusion. If they Ash, you Mercourier. So that's kind of cool. And it feels a little bit less wasteful on a turn 1 than Branded in red, because you're not just banishing everything. That can sometimes be a little weird. So I like white. I actually really like white. And a bonus about white is that you can make Guardian Chimera turn 1, you're going second, without like banishing a bunch of stuff all at once. So that's a little added note too, but I really like Branded in white. I'm a big fan of that card. And then to round out the traps, Retribution and 3 Imperm. 3 Imperm is no nonsense. And Retribution is just kind of engine requirement. But it's a nice cycle card. It's a pretty nice card to set. And that's pretty much it for the main deck. 40 cards, again, as I said. The extra deck, we have the 2 Albion, the 1 Lubellion, and the 2 Mirror Jade. No nonsense. We all kind of expected that. If you're not playing those ratios in Branded Despia, I think you're kind of weird. And then the rest of the Albaz Fusion is the Sanctifier, Randbrum, and Titaniclad. I love all 3 of these. Pretty much all I have to say. They all have like very valuable scenarios where they excel, especially Titaniclad. Low-key, I think out of these 3, Titaniclad is like the least cuttable. I love this card so much on field, in grave, and as a fairly generic thing to fuse into with Albaz, because there's plenty of things out in the world that have 2500 or more attack, so that's cool. I love all 3 of these still. And then the 1 Granguignol, the 1 Queritus. I also think Queritus is like pretty damn near uncuttable in a Despia build. I just like I really try with like Nadir Servant and Lulu and stuff like that. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not stupid. But I can't love those cards. Like I try so hard to love those cards and I just don't. I just feel like most of the time Queritus is better than Lulu anyways, and sure, Grave Effect, whatever, but I just feel like Queritus is more valuable kind of in general. And then, just to get him out of the way, the Dragoon can't be targeted, kind of a beast. We still like him. And then the Chimera, of course, Guardian Chimera, and then our 3 Super Poly targets being Dragostapelia, Garura, and Mud Dragon. As I said before, Dragostapelia to me is honorary branded. These really are your Super Poly targets, but you can Super Poly into almost anything in your deck under the right circumstances. So, yeah, so that's going to round out the Branded Despia build. Just sort of what I'm thinking at the moment. Again, I hate that Super Poly is like kind of feeling like the play right now. Just because I personally have like a problem with the card. I just really hate the card. But I think it's good. And I think a lot of decks are playing into certain Super Poly targets. And I think it's pretty valuable. And as a board breaker, like right now, board breakers are kind of shit. Except for cards like Triple Tactics Talent, Fenrir if you play that. Or like Super Poly if your deck naturally runs Super Poly. I think it's pretty solid, actually. I don't think Super Poly is like so crazy that like you'd side it just for a certain matchup if you're not really playing a fusion heavy deck, like just to go into Mud Dragon or Garura. Not that you couldn't, but we're already playing a fusion deck, so to me it's just like, all right, this kind of feels like the time to do it. So yeah, if you were just here for the Despia build, thank you for watching. But we will move on to the Synchro build now. Alright, so Synchro build time. Most of this is pretty similar to the first Synchro build I posted, but I have moved some things around. So yeah, we'll talk about it when we get to it. But 3 Quem, normal stuff, 3 Cartesia, normal stuff, and 3 Albaz, normal stuff. These are all situationally great starters. Quem is normally the best starter, Cartesia is nice to see, and Albaz is actually a much better normal summon in this build because of Striker Dragon. So, all cool stuff. Altering the one-ofs, though, I did not bring back Tragedy. I still don't really miss Tragedy. I didn't have that in the first profile, but I did mention it a little bit. We're still playing the Merc. We're still playing the Shroudion, of course. But I brought back Springin's Kit. And this allowed me to cut down on a few other little things because it made them more searchable. And sometimes Kit is just a free summon. So I actually kind of like this. In Branded Despia, I go back and forth on Kit all the time. Sometimes it feels like a worse Alubur. Sometimes it feels like a better Alubur. You know, it's kind of weird. But in this deck, I think Kit is actually like really cool. Especially because you're recycling a lot of things anyway, and she just kind of adds to that, which is kind of sick. Bestial Alubur, the one of course, counts as Albaz on field and engrave. You know, level 4 dragon, tuner, cool stuff. And then our big boy Bestials. So the standard stuff, 3 Lubellion, 3 Saronir, V1 Magnemite Rip in Peace, 2 Druisworm, and 1 Baldrake. So I think I was running 3 Druis in the other profile, and no Baldrake. This is really just because I wanted a better mixture of names. But this feels pretty good. It's still a 10 count on the Bestials, I believe. It should still be 10. 3, 6, 9, 10, yeah. If you don't count Bestial Alubur, of course. But that's the reasoning behind that. I actually like it. I actually like it a good bit. And then to round out the monsters, we are playing the 3 Ash. No nonsense. It's Ash Blossom. But we have a little bit more space in this deck for more hand traps, which is good in a hand trap heavy format. And we are playing 3 Nibiru. I think Nibiru is, one, just really good right now, but especially in this deck, it is a really fun card. It's a nice backup plan. Even when you are going first. And it has some funny sort of interactions with stuff like Hieratic Seal or especially Druisworm. Like if you nib and then chain Druisworm, you can just take out the token right afterward so they have nothing, which is kind of funny. So yeah, nib is cool. We like it. We like the rock. And then the Foolish Burial. I did cut the Gold Sark. Since my only Gold Sark target really was Mercurier, Foolish Burial I think kind of does what I need it to. It is so generically good for everything in the deck, pretty much. So I still think this is like pretty mandatory for consistency. It helps so much. Getting things into the grave, you know, to search branded spells, or to get Cartesia summons, or to just have things in the grave for your Bestials to banish is all super, super valuable. So yeah, Foolish Burial will not be going anywhere. 3 Branded Fusion, because it's Branded Fusion. And then I actually, because I'm playing Kit, I cut down the High Spirits to 2. It's still a good card to open, but it is searchable now. And you don't want to draw too many of this if you don't have the right hand for it, because it can, for lack of a better term, be a brick. It's not really a brick, it's a crazy card. But it is searchable now, so I cut it down a little bit. We still have the 1 red, and I cut white to 1 instead of 2 because of Kit, as I said. We do have a searcher now, so that's all cool stuff. And I forgot to mention, I think at the beginning, I went from 42 cards to 43 cards. And with all this stuff I added, especially with another 3 slots for hand traps, I think that's kind of a W. It actually feels really good to play. And then the 1 regained, the 1 beast, and the Retribution. I think some people are cutting Beast, and I don't think that's bad. But I think sometimes Beast is actually better to get first than Regained. It kind of depends. I just like having the option, because removal is fun, and Retribution needs no introduction. So, but the deck honestly runs on Regained. And then the last 3 slots are Imperms. No nonsense. So, yeah, don't have to say much about that. And then for the extra deck, so we have our links. First, Striker Dragon. We love Striker Dragon, dude. He's so cool, man. He's, easy to link into with Albaz or the Bestial Aluber. Gets your Bestials going, links up into Seal quite nicely. And, of course, we play the Seal. This is, like, maybe the best card in the extra deck, arguably. It's either this or, like, this Potter or something. That's pretty cool. And then, he's a shill. Oh, no, he's a fucking shill. Yeah, so I bit the bullet. I got the SP. I had so much store credit from, like, pools from the Rarity Collection and from Agov. So I just said, fuck it. Use that store credit. The funny part about SP in this deck, though, is that it is very good. SP is a format-defining card. It is very, very strong. But the funny part to me is going first, there are like 3 better things that you can make at any one time than SP Little Knight usually. But it does help with going first. It does really help in the grind game. And if you SP Banish herself and a light or dark on your opponent's field, that triggers Regained, and you can just shuffle back their card. That way you'll get your SP back and they will get back nothing. So it has some really fun interactions, as well as turn 1, if you really feel like you need more, linking into this while you have Regained, just to banish something of yours to get a draw, potentially something that has a banish effect as well, or that you want to reborn with Dispotter or whatever the case may be, that can be pretty cool. So I think obviously if you have the card, you should play it in this deck. But if you don't have the card, man, don't stress over it. It's by no means the best card in your extra deck, which is really funny. Actually, it's kind of funny. And then the fusions, the 2 Albion, the 1 Lubellion, and the 1 Mirror Jade. We really don't need 2 Mirror Jade in this deck. And if it gets banished or something, we can either shuffle it back through Dispotter, shuffle it back through Regained, or reborn it through Dispotter. So you really you don't need the second one. A lot of times going first, if you're not attempting to break a board, you're not going into Mirror Jade unless you absolutely have to. So you just don't need 2 in this build. And then we play the Sanctifier, the Rindbrum, and the Titaniclad. Again, still love all 3 of these. Rindbrum is weaker in this deck than Despia as far as his Grave effect goes. Especially since we do only play 1 Mirror Jade, so if they out that one, you're not necessarily making a second one. But he's still pretty good. I still like him. Titaniclad is just great, as always. And I honestly think Sanctifier, taking out the whole possibility of the Gimmick Puppet in Despia, I think Sanctifier is actually better in this deck. This dude just adds so much advantage on top of all of your other stuff. And, not being able to be targeted is cool. 3k beater is cool. You have consistent access to Cartesia, Quem, and Albaz. So, yeah. No, he's great. He's great. He's great. And then the 1 Grand Guignol. And I cut Lulu. Like I said sort of earlier in the video, I don't love Lulu, man. Like, sometimes it's okay, but I feel like it's never fantastic. And Queritus in this deck really is not great because you have such a mixture of monster types. It's not just like all fusions. So really the only thing we're bringing out via Grand Guignol through the banish effect is Quem. But we play several Quems, so that's gonna pretty much always be an option. It's not like, oh, we lost our 1 Quem, we don't have anything else to summon after that. So 1 Grand Guignol's honestly fine. And then this is different from the last list. Masquerade. Ooh, baby Masquerade. I love this fucking card, dude. I love him so much. And I had the space for it, honestly. Because I took out Lulu, and I was just kind of thinking, like, well, what do I put here? And there are these very weird scenarios, especially going first, where like occasionally I would make like Seal and stuff like that, and like I would do like my normal things, but I would have like Quem and Cartesia left over. And I'd be like, okay, well, I can make Grand Guignol and send something to grave. That's always an option that you can go for. But having something generic that Quem can fuse into, and it being one of my favorite cards, and having burn damage and all that stuff is really funny to me. So, fuck it. We play Masquerade. And then the Borreload Furious is the last fusion. This card is awesome in this deck. I low-key feel like I could be playing him in Branded Despia. Branded Despia, I'm already having the problem of, like, I want to play, like, 3 or 4 other extra deck cards that I just can't fit, and I have to make a choice somewhere. And you can't as consistently make him in Branded Despia, but here, I think he's mandatory, bro. I think he's just too good to not play. He's so fun. And then, despite this being called Branded Synchro, we only play 2 Synchros, being Barone and Dispotter. Dispotter's great. He does a lot of work turn 1, and Barone is just a generically very, very good card. It can be the better choice going second sometimes, and that's really cool. So yeah, that is the Branded Synchro build, and that will round out the rest of the video for today. So, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. It's been a little while since I did like actual profiles on stuff, and I figured, what the hell, I'll just talk about both because I play both, and I don't want the people that only play one variant or the other to feel like, you know, I'm not consistently playing or talking about the decks or feeling left out or whatever, because I do love both. They're both very fun, and are both very different. So yeah, that's all from me. Peace out. Take care.